The collection of a laboratory specimen is the first step in producing a laboratory result. As such, it is critical that it be done correctly. An incorrectly collected specimen can cause the entire test to fail, however well the analysis is performed. This results in wasted time and efforts on the part of the laboratory, clinical staff, and most importantly, the donor. What follows is the procedure for correct collection of a forensic specimen for this laboratory. This presentation will cover the collection of two types of specimens, urine and oral fluid. It will not address every detail of the collection procedure. Please read the standard operating procedure before performing a forensic collection. First, we'll discuss urine collections, and then we'll discuss the simpler oral fluid collection process. Who can collect a forensic urine specimen? Anyone who is trained in the collection procedure may collect a specimen. However, certain persons may not collect a specimen. First, the immediate supervisor or hiring official of an employee or applicant. Second, a coworker who is in the same testing pool or works with the employee to be tested on a daily basis. Third, a donor may not collect his or her own specimen. And fourth, an individual with a personal relationship with the donor may not collect a specimen. Who can observe a forensic urine collection? Anyone who meets the criteria to be a collector and is the same sex as the specimen donor may observe a urine collection. Where can you collect a forensic urine specimen? To collect a urine specimen, you need a provision to ensure donor privacy. This may include, first, an enclosed stall in a multi-stall bathroom. Second, a single-person restroom. Third, a partitioned area that allows for individual privacy. And fourth, a mobile restroom, for example, a vehicle with an enclosed toilet stall. In any case, the collection area must be restricted to authorized personnel during the collection. You need a means for washing hands. The water source should be external to the restroom where collection occurs. If enclosed, it must be secured by the collector. If a water source is not available, hand sanitizer, moist towelettes, or other waterless cleaner may be used, but always kept outside the restroom. You need a clean surface, inaccessible to the donor, for handling specimens and completing paperwork. The collector work area should be external to the restroom where the collection occurs. You need a secure, temporary storage area for maintaining specimens and completing the paperwork. Specimens should not be exposed to high temperatures for an extended period of time. These conditions may affect the test results of a urine specimen. You need the ability to, first, restrict access to collection supplies before, during, and after collection. Second, store collection site records securely. And third, restrict the donor access to items that could be used to adulterate, substitute, or otherwise dilute the specimen. For example, soap, disinfectants, cleaning agents, and water. You'll also need a secure, temporary place to keep a donor's personal belongings that cannot be taken into the restroom. What do you need to collect a forensic urine specimen? Split specimen collections are to be used when a medical review officer, or MRO, will be reviewing the laboratory test results. To collect a split specimen, you'll need, first, single-use plastic containers. They're supplied as an individually sealed item using a tamper evidence system. For example, they may come in a sealed plastic bag, they may be shrink-wrapped, they may have a peelable or sealed lid, or another easily visible tamper evidence system. It should have an attached thermometer that can read between 90 and 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Second, you'll need single-use plastic specimen bottles. These are usually supplied with the collection container. Third, you'll need custody and control form with tamper evidence seals. Fourth, you'll need a plastic specimen bag. Fifth, shipping containers. Sixth, a bluing agent to add to the toilet bowl and tank, which is not included in the collection kit. And seventh, disposable gloves. These are also not included as part of your collection kit. For forensic collections that will not involve a medical review officer, single collection is acceptable. The specimen bottle must still have a tamper-evident seal and will be used to both collect and ship the specimen. The Custody and Control Form, or CCF, documents who has the specimen, when they have the specimen, or where and when the specimen has been stored. It documents all transfers of custody. This form will help guide you in the collection procedure. The specimen cannot be processed at the laboratory without a properly completed CCF. The collection process. It is extremely important to complete the collection process with one donor before starting the process with another. First, assemble the supplies needed for collection. Second, prepare the washroom for collection. There should be a bluing agent in the toilet bowl. If there's a toilet tank, bluing agent may be added to the tank water, or the tank lid may be secured with tamper-evident seals. Turn off the water supply to the sink and/or secure the taps. Third, remove any soap, cleanser, disinfectant, or other potential adulterants. Inspect and/or secure areas that could be used to conceal adulterants, such as drop ceilings, ledges, or trash cans. Next, greet the donor and verify his or her identity with a government-issued photo ID. Complete Step 1 of the CCF. This is to be filled out before receiving the specimen from the donor. This step must be filled in completely. The employer or agency information may be pre-printed. If it isn't, fill it in. Remember to press down. You're making 5 copies. Check the box indicating the reason for the test. Record the specimen type. Enter the donor's social security number in the space provided on the CCF. Indicate the tests ordered. MRO information may be pre-printed. If it isn't, record the address, telephone number, and/or fax number of the MRO. Ensure that the specimen identification number on the CCF matches the identification number on the bottle seals. Ask the donor to remove bulky outer garments, hats, and scarves. Ask the donor to empty pockets. Pills, powders, or liquids, including Visine, should be held secure for the patient until the patient returns from the washroom. Items that cannot reasonably be used to adulterate, substitute, or dilute the specimen may be returned to the donor. Pills, powders, or liquids should be held securely and returned when the donor returns from the restroom. Instruct the donor to wash his or her hands outside of the restroom. Liquid soap is preferred, but hand sanitizer may also be used. Next, unwrap or break the seal of the kit in view of the donor. Only the container seal is broken at this time. If there are separate specimen bottles, they remain under seal. Give a collection container to the donor. Direct the donor to the washroom. Instruct the donor to provide at least 45 milliliters of urine and point to a spot above that level on the temperature strip. At this point, the collector should wear gloves. Then, receive the urine from the donor. The collector invites the donor to wash his or her hands as before. Once the collector has possession of the urine specimen, the donor may flush the toilet. At this point, the collector should inspect the specimen for validity. It should be pale to deep yellow. Unusual colors, especially green, as when using a blued toilet bowl, are grounds for rejection. However, red may be present due to blood from menstruation. The urine should be of an acceptable volume. It should contain no foreign objects. And the sample should have a temperature reading between 90 and 100 degrees Fahrenheit. The temperature is indicated by the center of color on the temperature strip. If the volume is not sufficient to activate the strip, tilt the cup until it covers the strip and wait for color development. Mark the appropriate box in Step 2 on the CCF. It is important that the specimen remain in view of the test subject until the specimen container is sealed with a tamper-evident seal and the seal initialed by the donor and dated by the collector. If a single collection, Confirm the lid of the cup is on tight, but not over-tightened and not misaligned. If it's a split specimen, unseal the specimen bottles in the donor's presence. If a split collection, pour from the urine collection container to each of the bottles in the donor's presence. At least 30 milliliters is poured into bottle A and 15 milliliters into bottle B. Secure the lid or cap on each bottle. Place the appropriate tamper-evident seal on both bottles. If a single collection, use the seal for bottle A. Present to the donor the sealed bottles and the seals, with the specimen identification number showing. Ask the donor to confirm that the numbers match, and that they match the number on the CCF. Date each of the tamper-evident seals on the bottles. Ask the donor to initial the seals. If the donor refuses to initial, note that on the remarks line in Step 2 on the CCF and continue the collection process. If a split collection, discard any excess urine remaining in the collection container into the toilet. Instruct the donor to read the donor portion of the CCF from Step 5 to Copy 2. If the donor agrees with the statement, direct the donor to fill out the certification area, including signature, printed name, date, day and evening telephone numbers, and date of birth. Return the patient's property if it was held. Fill in the collector's portion of Step 4 on the CCF. Fill in the name of the delivery service to whom the specimens are to be released for delivery to the laboratory. Place the specimen bottles in a leak-resistant specimen bag, including absorbent material. Place CCF Copy 1 in the document pouch of the specimen bag. Seal and prepare the specimen package for shipment and distribute the remaining CCF copies as required. Copy 5, the donor copy, is then provided to the donor, and the donor can be dismissed. Special situations. If the specimen is not the characteristic color of urine, or if there are foreign objects present, or if the volume is unacceptable, mark the CCF as rejected before distributing the copies. Ask the donor to provide another specimen. If the donor declines to do so, the collection is a refusal to test. If the donor does provide a second acceptable specimen, send both the rejected and acceptable specimens to the laboratory. If the specimen temperature is outside the acceptable range, mark No on Step 2 of the CCF. Record inappropriate comments on the remarks line in Step 2 of the CCF for the first specimen to identify this as the first of 2 specimens collected. You must also provide a reason for why 2 specimens were collected. Complete the first collection before initiating the second collection. Begin the collection of the second specimen using an observed collection procedure. See Item 8C, a new collection kit, and a new CCF. Observed collections will be discussed later in the presentation. Record inappropriate comments on the remarks line in Step 2 of the federal CCF for the second specimen to indicate why 2 specimens were collected, including a cross-reference to the specimen identification number of the first specimen. Observed collections take place under the following circumstances. 1. After a rejected specimen, not including low-volume rejections. 2. On reasonable suspicion that the patient will attempt adulteration. And 3rd, on client request. Observed collections. Observed collections are those performed with a staff member physically in the washroom with the donor while he or she voids. Due to the nature of this collection, the collector must be of the same sex as the donor. Inform the patient that this will be an observed collection. Wear gloves. Accompany the donor to the washroom. Only when you are both in the washroom, hand the collection cup to the donor and ask him or her to fill the cup. Stand so that you can see the urine emerge from the patient's body. Ensure that there is no prosthetic device or tube being used to provide the urine. Ensure that the donor does not add anything to the cup. Once that's been confirmed, it is no longer necessary to directly observe, but You should remain in the washroom with the patient until the void is complete. Take possession of the cup and secure the lid. Leave the washroom with the patient. Since this was a direct observation, there's no need to assess the specimen as to appearance or temperature. Continue with the normal collection procedure from here. Check the box on the CCF for observed collection. Monitored collection. A monitored collection is used when the collection takes place in a public restroom, or the restroom used for collection has a water source that cannot be disabled or secured. If the donor refuses to have a monitored collection under the above circumstances, it is a refusal. A monitor may be the collector or an individual other than the collector, and is not required to be a trained collector. The monitor must be the same sex as the donor, except if the monitor is a trained medical professional. The monitor accompanies the donor into the restroom so that no one else can enter during the collection process. The monitor remains in the restroom, though outside the stall, while the donor is providing the specimen. The monitor listens for sounds of tampering with the specimen. The monitor must not watch the donor urinate into the specimen container. If there is evidence of tampering, the monitor notifies the collector to immediately begin to collect a second specimen using an observed collection procedure. After the donor is finished providing the specimen, it is returned to the collector directly by the donor. The monitor may never touch the specimen or handle the collection container unless the monitor is also serving as the collector. The collector provides the name of the monitor, if the monitor is not the collector, in the remarks line in Step 2 on Copy 1 of the CCF. Refusal. If the donor refuses to provide a specimen, do not attempt to persuade or to argue with the patient. You may ask a second time if he or she is willing to provide a urine specimen. But if the patient still refuses, mark the requisition refused. Fill in your name, date, and time in the appropriate place. Separate the requisition into its copies and distribute it appropriately. After giving the patient his or her copy of the requisition, dismiss the patient. Shy bladder. Shy bladder is a situation in which the donor claims he or she is unable to produce urine. When a patient claims shy bladder, ask the donor to wait until he or she is able to produce urine. If the donor will not wait, this is a refusal. Handle the situation accordingly. If the donor does wait, offer water. The patient may have 8 fluid ounces per 30 minutes for up to 3 hours. There should be no more than a total of 40 ounces of water given to the donor. No other drinks besides water provided by the collector are permitted. Do not allow the donor to leave the facility. If the donor leaves at any point before collection, it is a refusal. Do not permit the donor to void within 15 minutes of failing to provide an adequate volume. If the donor at last provides an adequate specimen, proceed as with a normal collection. Record the time of the attempt to provide sufficient volume of specimen in the remarks line in Step 2 of the CCF. Note: the collector must not, under any circumstances, combine urine collected from separate voids to create one specimen of sufficient volume. If the donor is not able to provide an adequate specimen in 3 hours, discontinue the collection and check the None Provided box in Step 2 of the CCF. At this point, discard any urine that was collected. As an alternative to urine, oral fluid may be collected with agency or employer permission. Begin a fresh CCF and record the name of the person who authorized the alternate specimen in the remarks section in Step 2 of the CCF.